A controversial thing I do when I walk into schools is to literally see the rules and then install some new rules. And those new rules mean that Johnny is the best pupil for today. It's as simple as that. Give him a different frame of reference. And then what happens is when you go back to the school, you find out that Johnny did well for 3 weeks. Simply because somebody told him he could do better. Or somebody told him that he can see the potential in him, which is far greater than what he's given at the moment. Pupils at still at school believe deep down that their existence is limited. And it doesn't help when you see images in the media of either ultra successful black people or people that are living, you know, the worst type of black people who are addicted to drugs, who are coming out of jail, you know, so there's no in between. And I think that we should focus more on the in between, what really happens. There are good people in our community, there are good people that own businesses, there are good people that want to give you opportunities, there are good people that have you, as, you know, they're interested in helping you to learn, but we're not really focusing on them. What we're focusing on is this one, which is again back to the popular culture, because that's the image that we can't quite grasp, or this one. And so which one are we nearer to? Because we're not focusing on the middle, so we're not nearer to this successful artist who you know, he drives a £1 million sports car. We can't touch that, but what we can do is we can touch this. And so we tend to migrate this way. So a lot of young people, I believe, in terms of the work I do, just need to know that there is a window of opportunity. It's as simple as that. They just need to know that there is more information out there. You know, you can succeed at something other than the norm. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that isn't it amazing that some of these young people that leave school and they, you know, their teachers tell them that, you know, you're not intelligent at all, are able to make intelligent choices negatively, and they're doing it very well. So they are able to make choices and they are able to commit, but they're just doing it on the wrong side of the fence. So my goal is to make them, make them or enable them to do that on the right side of the fence, and just see how far they can get with it. And I'm telling you, most of the young people that do it on this side of the fence, you know, become successful at least one thing in their lives. Interesting enough, I did some work with some 17-year-olds, and interesting enough, two of the seven, there were 5 of them, 2 of those 17-year-olds were actually questioning popular culture. And it turned out that what was interesting, that the 2 of them that had the debate were both readers. They both read a lot of books, and they both read information that contradicts what they've been force-fed. So it was quite amazing to listen to them. And what they found was that they understood that at some level there was control. At some level there's a structure there, or infrastructure for young people to control them, because they themselves at 17 couldn't understand why everybody in their peer group had to smoke marijuana, smoke weed, or the young girls in their peer group thought that they were 21 or 22, so they were engaging in activities such as sexual activities at a very early age, or the fact that they were not interested in their diet. They were basically on the road to destruction. So these 2 young men sat, and I watched them debate it, and the information that they came up with firsthand from young people was that in fact there is a conspiracy. There is a conspiracy, and especially through the music, because we did an exercise where we printed off some of he's a popular rapper. I don't know if I can mention his name, but we printed off some of his lyrics and read those lyrics back in a lesson without the music. And 85, or I'd say 90% of that class did not know where those lyrics came from, without the music attached. So you see the complexity of the program is that you put the music with the lyrics, and then it bypasses any kind of filter that you have in your head, and then you start to act like the rapper. That's essentially what it's designed to do. And these young people identified that. which I thought was very, very interesting. And in fact, it forced them to actually seek different routes in life in terms of values. And one of them joined the church, interesting enough, as a way out, because he felt that there was too much of a bombardment of popular culture. There was too much it actually became hard being a young person, because there's too much you need to do to fit in. And all of those things you need to do to fit in are all destructive. If you have those people focused on the three most negative things, then their intelligence will make them successful in those three most negative things. It's as simple as that. If you're intelligent and you focus on something, you immerse your intelligence in that thing. And unfortunately, it's negative. So what you'll find is you will have young 15-year-olds that know how to make £2,000 a day. Most successful companies don't know how to do that. But these young people know how to make, and you know, it always goes back to school when I wasn't the greatest at maths at school. And I always remember feeling as if I would be lost in this outside world without maths. I wouldn't know how to calculate money, I wouldn't be rich, I wouldn't know what to do. So far I haven't done too bad. But what's amazing is some of the young people that don't finish school know how to work the metric system. They know about grams, ounces, they know about weights and measures, to the extent that a scientist would be baffled. And these are the young people that, again, because of the intelligence and focusing on the negative, are able to make that successful. So what I'm saying to you is, if, as a young person, if you focus that energy into something productive, you will be successful. You're absolutely going to be successful at it. But because popular culture is there to, I don't know, what is popular culture there to do? Popular culture is there to actually, popular culture is there to actually keep the programming working. And some of you may challenge that comment, but you only have to listen to music nowadays. You only have to listen to the music that young people listen to. And you will understand that the lyrics in those words are set not to enlift, not to empower you, but to in fact make you lower than you are already. And that's the issue with popular culture at the moment. Popular culture is an ever-changing thing, and if you check back, the whole history of popular culture is determined through a very few amount of people. And what happens is they get together and they determine how, a very few people, they get together and they determine exactly how a specific popular culture will affect the people or the listener, and they will continuously play that until it starts to affect them. And so that's what we're actually suffering from, the effect of music that started 10 years ago. You know, as a young person growing up, I listened to rap music, and it made me very culturally aware that there was a difference to what I would see out my window. It made me actually aware that there was a world outside. And it's quite strange that music can do that, because that's what music does, is it joins the dots. So if you haven't been somewhere and an artist tells you about it, you feel as if you've been somewhere. Yeah. And the more you listen to it, the more you love the artist, the more you love where he's been, the more you love the diamonds he's talking about that he owns, the more you even love his car. And the reality of it is that the time you give listening to that negative artist, you're actually taking away from yourself. And that's the issue in popular culture now, and young people. So my job is to actually steer them clear of all that rap music, and not to tell them, not, you know, because listening is a must. They must listen to it, but they must listen subjectively. They must understand what they're listening to. Because the way the mind works is you can either let something in or you can filter it. So they need to start filtering the information that's going into their minds, and, you know, hopefully produce a different behaviour. I'll give you a metaphor, and perhaps this will explain what I'm talking about. If you have a lot of sheep, then you employ a shepherd to manage those sheep. Now the sheep are not doing anything wrong. The only problem is that you need those sheep to be in one place all the time. Because you need to have those sheep there so they can become accountable. Those sheep are accountable, because that's your profit. Now, the way society is built up is that if you look at us as sheep, you've got to look, try and find who the shepherd is. And it's that shepherd who also works for somebody else. So, but let's take it back to the shepherd. So the shepherd is managing the sheep. And so what does the shepherd do? The shepherd buys a sheepdog. So the sheepdog and the shepherd manage the sheep. So if you look at popular culture, it's exactly the same job that the shepherd and the sheepdog are doing. Because they're creating an environment or a condition which will enable them to know where those sheep are at any given time. Does that make sense? So those sheep don't even know that their shepherd is there to control them. He thinks that the shepherd is there because he cares about them, but the shepherd only cares about the profit he can make off the meat. That's essentially what it is. The sheepdog eats very well because the sheepdog plays a very important part in rounding up the sheep. But the important message here is that at some level, in fact at all levels there is control. So even among the sheep you will have rivalry, which you might see if you liken it back to people and people's behaviour. You'll see even sheep have issues amongst themselves. But the shepherd and the sheepdog will always sort it out. They'll always sort out the bigger generalisation. And so that's in essence where we are in society now. So when I talk to people and I say, yes, you are being controlled by things such as the media, I believe it absolutely should be true. So we have to, as a people, understand that conditioning is key. In order to control a person or a people, you need to condition that mind first. If you're a parent and you have a child, you have to condition that child. Because first of all, you've got a set of values that you adhere to in this house. So much of parenting is conditioning. Because you're conditioning that child to respect your values while under the roof. When you go out into the world, you can have those values I've given you, plus the values that you pick up outside. But while you're here, the values of this house is what's important, etc., etc. So a lot of young people, like I said before, they're just receiving the wrong information. And until they start receiving positive, correct information, even from the media, as a start, then you'll start seeing a change in those communities, in that specific people. In terms of history, because somebody said to me the other day, you're a bit radical. I didn't want to use that word. You're a bit radical in your thoughts. They appreciate my thoughts, but they thought I was a bit radical, and they thought that why would anybody want to control anybody else? Why all this stuff? Why are you talking? Young people are just out of hand. And again, it's back to the rabbit's foot. You need to check out what popular culture is about, and you will find out that control is exactly where we're at now. We're actually more sheep than we know it at this present time. We're actually more sheep than we know it. So become a goat.